Welcome back to the Mistress Makeover. On the first episode, I actually tried to install the frame sliders. They came out very well, but it took me longer than expected. Hopefully this episode will be a little bit shorter, as I plan to wrap up the crash protection, so sit back and enjoy, and let's get started.
The first part of the crash protection I'm actually going to install is going to be the bar ends. These are probably going to be the easiest thing to install out of everything. Now before you stick this one in, I recommend to put some Loctite on it. Emphasis, not the red Loctite, I use the blue, that's removable. This is just going to put a little bit of stuff on the threads to make sure that it doesn't back out on you. So as you can see, the bar ends were really easy to install. The only downside I can see to them is that the color isn't actually red, it's more like a burnt orange. I contacted TST. Mark said that Womet Tech anodizes all their products, and he says with the anodizing process, it doesn't always come out the same red every batch. I understand the anodizing process, so I can see where he's coming from. With that said, I'm going to leave them on, see if they grow on me. If they don't really grow on me, I'll just kind of move on to the next thing. Probably put black ones on. Black goes with everything. But now that those are done, I'm going to move on to the next piece, which is the front fork sliders. So first thing I did was I laid out all the parts that came with my fork slider. It came with these pretty clear instructions. It's just kind of a layout. There's really not much to it. The only part of the system it replaces is the nut on the front axle, and the only thing that scares me is this is made out of aluminum, whereas the original one is steel. So we are replacing that. The one thing it doesn't talk about really is they did throw in these two pairs of stickers. These actually go into this little lip right here. You don't actually have to use stickers. You could leave it black, but I think I want to use the red, so I'm going to stick those in now. There. Now we're going to be taking the nut that they gave us and just putting it back in. Remember, it is aluminum, so any resistance is a no-go. You want to back it off. This is going in pretty smooth. You want to tighten it to, according to their video, 30 foot-pounds. I got this set. There I am. It's not actually that much, I'm surprised, but then again, it's aluminum, so I don't want to go overboard. One thing that they did not say in their instructions is because there's no lock washer or anything on this side, I'm going to apply some blue Loctite. I know I'm anal with this stuff, but it's what I do. And this is just insurance that says that I won't lose my stuff out on the road. Now we have a problem. It appears that to install these, they don't like the Pitbull front stand that I got it on. So what I'm going to have to do is lower the front end of the bike, finish putting it on, and then we'll just lift it back up again when I got to do other stuff. Now that they're both hand tight, I'm going to take my number 6 T-handle and my number 6 socket, and I'm just going to tighten them down. And yes, even though we did have some clearance issues before during the installation, the pit bull stand still works in the front. Fork sliders are in. Now I'm going to move to the back to put in the block sliders. Now one thing to note, this axle is very dry. It's the way it came from the manufacturer. What I recommend is putting some light axle grease on this so that way the next time you got to remove it, it's a lot easier. Now I have to do the one I've been dreading. This is the engine case side cover. The reason I've been dreading it is because unlike all the other ones that have templates or that are pretty easy to install, this one requires me to cut the fairing freehand. What I mean by that is check out the TST Industries video on how to do it. You just kind of put it in and eyeball it and then cut it to pieces with a Dremel. First part that's a little nerve-wracking, you have the timing cover on the engine block. They want you to try to eyeball the center of this nut that's right here and drill it to give you kind of a starting point, if you will. So that's kind of the first part that makes me a little nervous. Right here? Does it seem right? Now you can see I'm really close. I'm just going to move it over to the left a little bit. Now in this one you can see I'm a lot closer to the center. I think that's the best I'm going to do. So I'm going to go from there. So I have the puck. The puck's got a little dimple in it. If you watch their video, they lined it up and put tape around the side. It looked like it was about halfway down the puck. I'm just going to put my protractor in the dimple and line it up to where I think it should be. About halfway down the puck. You can always cut more off later. You can't ever add some. So that's where I'm going to start off. I know I'm going to probably have to cut some more off, but it's a good starting point. So here we go. That was pretty scary. You want to use a 16mm to remove the timing cover. Be careful you don't get any dirt in there or dust. I blew it all out first, so now there is an O-ring in there as well. I didn't put the O-ring on the puck just yet. That's not fitting in well. I'm just going to stick this back in to protect it from any debris. So I still need to take quite a bit off, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my micrometer and set it to about 1/10 of an inch and just mark it around. Alright, see how she fits. Now that that's in, I can see it's kind of uneven. There's a little more space on this side than there is on this side. I'm going to try to use a feeler gauge. Now the 4.5mm socket on my set fits perfectly on the largest point. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make it so it evenly slides all around the outside. By making this so it evenly goes around, it should all be the same size. Okay, so using a Dremel on your plastics is a lot harder than it looks. I kept screwing up, and as a result, I kept having to open this a little bit more, and then I had a little issue on the corner here where I was using the Dremel that it jumped up on the edge and caused a chip, which didn't make me happy. And I really did it. I tried my way with the socket, and then after I opened it up a little bit, I went back and I did it the way the video said, and it didn't help. I used the tape, everything. And what it comes down to is, I'm not as good as I thought I was with a Dremel. So this is definitely something I was really nervous about doing, and for good reason. I'm going to live with it because by no means is this a show bike. I'm going to be riding this bike, so it's going to get its fair share of chips, nicks, dings, what have you. But that's the whole point of the crash protection. But if you are like me and just shaky with your hand, don't do a Dremel. Pay somebody. Make sure they're good with a Dremel. Alright, so the side protection is complete. I got all the crash protection on. Now all that's left is for me to put my little logo on the side of this, and then I'm done. Okay, my crash protection is in and it looks pretty well. Even the side engine cover that I put on came out pretty decent. Now I don't have the hands of a surgeon, so my steady hand did not do well with a Dremel. The guy at TST made it look incredibly easy. I'm sure if you are a surgeon or you have a steady hand, it will be easy, but I did not. So I had to end up taking more and more off than I wanted to, but it still came out looking pretty decent. That being said, this bike is going to be ridden. I don't plan on babying it. It's going to be out on the road. It's going to get dirt, gravel, whatever. So it's going to get nicked and dinged. What I think I'm going to do is there's that one little spot on top that I accidentally chipped the paint. I think I'm going to just hit that with some touch-up paint and call it a day. But as usual, you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and comment below. I'll see you guys next time.